So let's start on markets. What's your read as we head into the fourth quarter? And there seems to be just more and more bad news.
Yeah, it's been a tumultuous year in markets broadly, and certainly in crypto. I think the current, recent numbers this year, the Nasdaq's down over 30%, S&P's down, and crypto's down 60% or thereabouts. It's changing every day. So the story of this year is definitely a bear market. Nevertheless, we've seen increased interest from our client base, and I think that the backdrop for many crypto investors is that there historically have been 4-year cycles. And while there are opportunities to make money in many moments of the crypto market, bear market moments are the moments where fortunes can be made. And so there are some that are positioning themselves in the current bear market and coming into the space now.
So what do you think it'll mean for crypto ultimately? Does Bitcoin break that $20,000 mark, for example?
Yeah, I can't say for sure about 20,000, and certainly it's a space with quite a bit of volatility. But the historical pattern of crypto, with the data we have, about 12 years of a journey, is that we get 4-year cycles. We get 3 years of bull markets with growing momentum, and then we get a bear market year. So 2014, the market down almost 60%. 2018, the market down north of 70%. And this year, obviously, the market down in 2022 around 60%. The expectation, if the market continues its historical trend, would be that we begin a new cycle next year. And so wherever we wind up this year, a lot of investors are thinking about how that positions them for the next cycle.
You're out with a new Web3 fund that'll give retail investors exposure to companies across Web3, finance, the metaverse, the creator economy. As we barrel into a recession, what makes you think investors are going to jump on board?
Yeah, so at Bitwise, we view our role as helping investors understand and access the opportunities in crypto. And certainly there are a wide range of important things going on in the world today outside of this space. But it's our job to stay focused on this space specifically. We've been doing it for 5 years. We work with over 1,000 financial advisors, branches, and institutions. And what we saw with BWeb was an emerging category of opportunity around the established innovators, established companies who are positioned to benefit from the rise of Web3, from the environment created by crypto. And so we view it as our job to recognize worthwhile opportunities and open up access to those. And so that's why we introduced the Web3 product. And in general today, there's quite a wide aperture of different areas that investors see opportunity in the crypto markets, quite different from even when we started the firm, and the story was mostly just about Bitcoin.
Now, there have been a number of high-profile crypto executive departures. CEOs, the CFO of OpenSea recently left. What do you think's behind all of this?
I think zooming out, it's a difficult time in the economy, and crypto is not bigger than that. It's not excluded from that. And in fact, crypto is more volatile in general. And so I think it's natural to expect that you would see turnover and that you would see adjustments with the firms in the space. We've been around for 5 years, and in that period of time alone have seen many of the players change. I think it's a healthy part of the progression and the maturation of the space. But in thinking about what it means for the average investor who's interested in the space, doesn't have a ton of time to focus on everything that's going on day to day. I think the real learning of 2022 is that it's starting to really matter who you work with, or what platform you use, or what app you use. And not all of these things are created equal. I think in 2021 there was a sense that if you invested in something, it didn't really matter where you bought it or how you bought it. You had a shot at a great return. I think this year, what's becoming more clear is that it matters who you're working with, or what service you're using to invest. So I think that is the implication of this. for most investors, is paying attention to who you're working with.
Now, I'd love for you to put your social media hat on for a moment. You used to work at Facebook and Instagram earlier in your career. I'm sure you've been following the Twitter Musk saga to a certain extent. Elon Musk and Jack Dorsey, we now know from their text, talked about making Twitter an open source protocol. What do you think about a decentralized vision for Twitter, and if something like that is really possible?
I think it's possible. I think it's exciting, and I think it's an experiment we're going to see play out in the immediate term future. In fact, there's a project called Farcaster that's already attempting to build a Web3 version of Twitter, where you can have a similar communication experience, but you don't worry about the sort of corporate policy and the moderation policy, because the information is on a blockchain, and then the app just pulls information from that blockchain. So I think the game is afoot on this one. And I think zooming out, it's sort of indicative of the moment we're at in the crypto space and with Web3, which is there are now a huge amount of developers, there's great funding, there's proven technology. And I think over the next 2 years, you're going to see a big wave of attempts to build consumer applications, to build services that people use. And I think the Twitter scenario is front and center as one of those in Web3.
So it sounds like you see this pretty clearly. Can you explain what this actually looks like, and how do things change for the average Twitter user? What happens to crypto Twitter, for example, if everything is decentralized? I think some people just don't understand, like, what do they really mean?
Here's the mental model I'd offer. In the current world, your followers, your audience is only available on Twitter. So whatever Twitter does is law. And sometimes that is a downside for certain users. The decentralized Web3 version, I don't know exactly what it'll look like, but it'll look something more like the way you think about your email, which is if you're not happy with Gmail, you can move to AOL. If you're not happy with AOL and you want certain features, you can move to Superhuman, and so on and so forth. You can take your email address, you can take your contact book with you, and you can go somewhere else if you don't like the way that the app is being built or the policies of the app. And so that's what people are striving for here when you hear people say a Web3 version of something. Similar to the dynamic and power structure that exists with email, they want to introduce that to more parts of our life. And so, I think you could use that as an analogy for how it might change certain services like Twitter.